The Ontario government says that 9 supervised drug consumption sites that are set to close will become treatment hubs. The sites in Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, Kitchener, Guelph, and Thunder Bay will turn into homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs by the end of March. Adam Zivo from the Centre for Responsible Drug Policy joined us for his view on the closures.
So, Ontario has determined that supervised consumption sites should not operate within 200 meters of any schools, daycares, or similar facilities that attend to children. And that makes sense because, as we've seen through extensive media reporting, these sites fuel crime and open drug use. This is something that was exemplified by the South Riverdale site in Toronto, where neighbors reported that drug dealers would openly sell drugs around the site, that police refused to enforce the law around the site as well. And eventually, a young mother was shot when two drug dealers had an altercation. And shockingly, it turned out that one of the harm reduction workers at this site actually had a romantic relationship with this dealer and tried to assist him with escaping justice and lied to the police about this. So, given this context, obviously, supervised consumption sites have not worked out in the way that was promised. And so the Ontario government has said that they're going to now invest into recovery centers that focus on shepherding people towards sobriety, or at least towards better treatment, for example, methadone or Suboxone, rather than simply enabling their addiction. And the idea here is to combine homeless services and addiction services to ensure that people's needs are holistically met. And I think that given the current political climate in Canada, this move makes a lot of sense. Harm reduction activists often claim that supervised consumption sites save many lives. The data behind that can sometimes be contentious, partially because the KPIs that are used by supervised consumption sites have often been fudged. So, for example, in the early 2000s, Canada launched Insight, which was the first supervised consumption site in the country, and 30 evaluations were produced suggesting that Insight was a massive success. But then when an external evaluator reviewed those evaluations, they found that essentially the data had been fudged to grossly underestimate the crime impacts and to grossly exaggerate the number of referrals to recovery. So, for example, an insight, if someone gave you a pamphlet that indicated what recovery services were nearby, that was counted as a referral, regardless if you just threw the pamphlet away 30 seconds later. That problem has been quite consistent. So when people say that supervised consumption sites shepherd thousands of people to treatment, that doesn't actually seem to be true. In fact, I've interviewed workers at these sites who say that they've seen no actual referrals to recovery and that KPIs have been fudged to increase, recovery referrals. So, for example, by saying, okay, we have recovery referrals plus other services, combining those two KPIs into one to hide the fact that one KPI has zero referrals. Now, there isn't any strong evidence base so far behind the four governments' more new recovery-oriented approach, but at the same time, we've seen that the current status quo just isn't working. Overdose deaths have been going up precipitously year after year, so it's time to try something new. And we have seen that a recovery-oriented system in Alberta works, that Alberta has seen a significant decrease in overdoses, I think approximately 30%, which is far greater than what we've seen in British Columbia, where I think the number is only 9%. And so if this system is conscientiously modeled around the lessons learned in Alberta, I think that even if there isn't a formal evidence base yet, that there is reason to be optimistic.